You ready to film another exciting episode? Real good at doing stuff?
I can't wait.
Gotta be more exciting.
I can't wait.
Okay, good. There we go. All right, real good stuff doers. This video with Finnegan was over several days, and it kind of turned into a hodgepodge mess for me to kind of document. I try to do something different than what Mike's doing when I'm involved in it, so that you're not seeing the same thing on a different channel. These things kind of turn into like a tube off, and we're not going to do that. So I'm going to cover things from the more technical aspect. So I'm going to be jumping back and forth in here, talking about some of the stuff that's going down so you understand it, because I know some of you guys are maybe newer to drag racing. So some of the people are going to be in this video. Eric Ghost was there also helping with suspension and whatnot. Matt Goins from Tick was there, and I think they made us help with the transmission swap at some point during this sequence of events. Had some help from the clutch guy, who I don't know his name. Anyhow, there's several people besides me that were involved in this whole deal. Speaking of which, the last video, I had a bunch everybody comment there about where you're from and whatnot. And holy cow, was that over the top. I guess they're real good stuff doers just all over the world. I'm gonna do an episode about that situation in general shortly in the next week or two, just to talk about that, because just amazing to me. So that was super cool. And speaking of which, if you comment about where you're from, put the city as well, because sometimes you guys just put the UK or whatever, and I like to see where stuff is at in particular. So anyhow, on to the video. I'll jump back and forth in here so you can we can talk about the tech a little bit, but let's do it. All right, real good stuff doers. It's time for something a little bit different. Today, we're at Mooresville Dragway with Blasphemi and Mike Finnegan, and we're gonna do a little bit of tuning on this thing and try to fix some stuff that hasn't been working too good. I do a lot of work for Mike, and I haven't been putting it on the channel because it seems like every time I'm doing it, it's a 5-alarm fire with other projects, and I just don't have time to mess with it. So like, it gets done, but it never makes it on here. So I'm gonna try to be better about that, but we'll see what happens. But anyhow, this one's gonna get on here. So anyhow, we'll kind of take you through the process today. We're gonna try to tune this thing up a little bit. He's made some changes. We'll go over that and see what happens. All right, Mike, what are we doing today?
Well, technically, I have to raise the bar and be real good at doing stuff, because usually I'm fairly mediocre at doing stuff.
Right, we can't have that today.
No, not today, Pete. Today I gotta do it.
Right, pressure's on.
We are at Mooresville Dragway with the legend Pete Harrell, who built the Hemi and Blasphemi, which, by the way, just survived the Drag and Drive event,
right.
800 miles. And today we are testing a brand new independent front suspension in Blasphemi.
Right, which, yeah. We no longer have the solid axle.
No
now
more buggy springs. Like, it should steer, it should stop.
Right.
Hopefully it should hook.
Right, and hopefully now we got some travel, which I think was our main problem before.
Yeah.
Just didn't have any travel, and it would hit the stop, and that was it.
Yeah, it would kind of start to transfer weight, then the front wheels would stop, and then it would fall down, and it would just kind of porpoise.
Just over with. Right.
It was a mess. Couldn't use any of that HED power. Now today we can.
Well, I every time I have my laptop on this thing, I think we need to take it down off the Projects, but there aren't. It's already down. This is as low as it's getting.
You can change the oil in this thing without jacking it up.
I bet so. Yeah. Right. Okay, so let's go make some rips.
All right.
Alright, so as you saw in that video, as soon as that clutch engages, it just instantly fries the tires. I really don't know how much we're going to be able to get away with today. The problem, in my opinion, is we have a diaphragm clutch in here. Well, I just don't know how successful we're going to be with that, because it's just kind of an on and off switch. Now, he was going to try to slide or, you know, meter his clutch pedal release a little bit and forgot, and it just hammered it so hard. So he has a device on there to kind of control this slip, supposedly. We're going to play with that and see if we can hit it a little bit less hard and make any progress. If that doesn't work, I can try some other things to try to bring the motor down. But you can see this is our drive shaft right here, and as soon as the clutch engages, it's instantly 1-to-1 with the motor. Right here, if you were to do the math, I'm sure that's 1-to-1, and it just can't tolerate that. Eric's making some, I think he's moving the shocks to a different spot in the rear end, but our biggest problem is we need to slip this clutch somehow, so we got to figure that out. Just to recap from yesterday, the issues we were working through. The main issue that we have with this car is it has a diaphragm style clutch, and those clutches don't give at all. When they grab generally, and that's the way this one's behaving. When it locks up in low gear, it snaps the tire loose every time. So at first he has a device on his clutch master cylinder that controls the release, or is supposed to. It's bang shift billy, as they call it. I'm not familiar with it. Sounds like a barbecue sauce, maybe a dry rub, but it's controlled with an app on your phone. I guess it's not a dry rub, because I never heard of a dry rub that's controlled by an app. But we never could get it to do exactly the way we wanted it, and then we were concerned that it was still doing something, so we took it out of the loop. And then to get around the diaphragm problem, I kept lowering the launch. It's going to snap the tire loose, or try to. The lower I bring it, the less wheel speed it's going to have when it does that, if it doesn't dead hook. And we ended up getting it to dead hook. Problem is, every time it dead hooked, it's going hard left trying to take the tree out. So we're probably going to put some rear steer in the car this morning. The clutch slip or clutch master cylinder device we've taken off yesterday, just to eliminate that potential problem. The other big issue we're having is that the the Dominator box some of the time was not taking I put a tune in, and then it would revert back to an old tune. I didn't realize this until the end of the day. Things started not adding up, and I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Find out that it's repeatedly doing that. I can make it do it sometimes, and then sometimes I can't. I've had one or two other cars do this in the past. So this right now, we're swapping out the Dominator to a fresh one. Gonna load the tune in that. That should fix that problem. So anyhow, we're going to take a couple more swings at it this morning with those changes. Hopefully it goes straight. All right, real good stuff, doers. We're back to try this once again with Mike Finnegan and Blasphemi. We tried the other day. I'll show some of that footage. Long story short, actually we tried for 2 days and just very, very mixed results. The main problem was where Mike had a diaphragm style clutch in the car. Those things don't really slip, they just grab when they grab. We tried to kind of make that work with some workarounds, but the issue that we couldn't get around is that the clutch would or the clutch pedal would release inconsistently. So in other words, our launch RPM kind of was out the window, because sometimes it might grab at one point and maybe grab at 4,300 RPM or so, and the next pass with no change it would grab at 6,400 RPM. Obviously that's not going to work. So we now have a slipper style clutch in there, which is how you drag race stuff like this. So obviously we're starting from scratch with it, which is going to be a handful, but I bet within a few licks we can make some progress here. But anyhow, that's the order of the day. Blasphemi. Who drives this sexy unit here? Look at that thing. Wow. But we're gonna try to make some progress with the Hemi, and here goes. All right, first trip. Everything looks good. Just trying to grab the motor about 6,200. Kind of caught Mike by surprise because everything was doing good for once. So we lifted pretty quick, and it still went 140 or so, way off the gas. So that's a good sign. We're just going to try to complete. We're not going to change anything. Make another hit and see what things look like. All right, so same thing. We're not gonna change the tune up really. Just add a little bit of clutch weight and try it again. It's trying to run through it a little bit. And so that's the only change. We're gonna see what happens.
Now. Huh? We're a little short on oil pressure now.
Pound the pan.
Really? I don't know, but it's got like 13 and it doesn't really want to move.
Yeah.
I told you I wasn't gonna lift. That might officially be the biggest wheelie this car's ever done. Holy cow.
Right.
I was like, don't lift, it'll stop, and it got all the way up, and I'm like, it's not stopping, so I did lift a little.
From one extreme to the other, huh?
It feels like it bent something.
Right. Well, it took a chunk of racetrack. Right here.
Nothing looks bent. There's the. Oh, that's got a scoop of rubber on this side here.
Ooh, what hit the ground here?
That's your crossover. That's crossover. Yeah.
All right, so you saw that wheelie fest out there. I guess in some ways that's a move in the right direction, but not quite as, we didn't want to quite go that far. So basically we're going to more or less try it again, very similar, but a little bit tighter on the suspension in the front. Try to keep the front down and see if we can make it a little more drivable. Actually, the oil pressure was fine the whole way. It was just looking at the voltmeter, I think, and that was throwing us off. But anyhow, let's let it rip a little bit tighter in the front. All right, that pass looked much better. Went 128 flat and 562 at 125. We're still granny shifting, so we're kind of laying on the high side right here and here. I think there's a good bit of ET in fixing that. So now we're going to try to change our shifting strategy to eliminate that, and that should be worth a little bit of ET. I'm not really going to change much as far as the power application goes, because I'd like to just make some rips without changing anything and getting the shift worked out. If we go adding power or whatever, we may, sacrifice a pass if things don't go right, and I want to get one thing worked out before the other. I'm going to change a little bit of the fueling strategy, but that's about it. We're going to change how we shift and go again.
He's like, I would not surprise me.
Tried it before. Go ahead. You're rolling.
All right, so we're kind of wrapping up our, 3-day test session?
Feels like 2 weeks.
Right. Yeah.
So
spread out over a week or two.
Yeah.
But, today, I think, was probably the most productive day we've had so far.
And we turned a corner today.
We turned the corner.
For sure.
Yeah, so we made the switch to a slipper style clutch, which is kind of a more drag race oriented deal, and that's turned out to be Boom?
Dude,
Right.
put a personal best 60 foot today.
Right, yeah.
127.
Yeah. Now, not everything is even close to being sorted out. So
No.
I think things are in a much better shape than they were this morning. And you're much more ready for drag week. That's it.
I feel so good about this. Like a week ago, I had my doubts. I was like, oh man, I don't know about this. But today, the car became much easier to drive thanks to that clutch, and the engine is really happy. And yeah, I think we're almost ready.
Right, yeah. Okay, so that's going to kind of wrap things up for this episode of Real Good at Doing Stuff. Check Mike's stuff out on Finnegan's Garage and Motor Trend TV and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And that's it for today.
See ya.
Can you do it good?